So, who else came to some conclusion about punctuation from these sentences? What'd you come up with, Tom?
You can't always replace a period with a comma.
You can't always, that not only is that true, but that is a truth that you can figure out from these sentences. Yeah. I want a little more than that. That is, sometimes, well, what do you learn about when you can't use a comma from these sentences? There's a more specific question. Why is a comma wrong? If you wrote something like these sentences, how would you decide whether to use a period or use a comma? Is a comma always wrong? It's wrong in these 4 examples. What do these 4 examples have in common? Wendy, I was hoping you would say that. You said it twice today, and this time you're right.
I know. They're independent clauses.
Yeah! You were just an hour early on saying that this morning.
I knew it was coming. They're runaways.
Yeah. So, let's take a look. My math teacher gave us a quiz. Is that an independent clause?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I did well on it. Is that an independent clause?
Yes.
Yes. So when you have 2 independent clauses, you cannot put it's wrong if you put a comma in. And it's right if you put a period in. Now, it doesn't say there aren't other options, and there are other options, but one of the options is not a comma. Taisha, do you remember what an independent clause is?
Not really.
Yeah? Anybody remember? Give us your best shot at it, Taisha. What can... Either what we said, remember we covered this about 2 weeks ago actually on a videotape while I was in Hawaii, off having fun snorkeling. You were back here trying to figure out independent clauses. Remember you did a whole exercise on that? I think you got them all right. An independent clause. Well, one of the things we talked about is the traditional definition is a group of words with a subject and a verb that expresses a complete thought. And I pointed out that that definition works if you do know what an independent clause is, but it doesn't work very well, for example, in a sentence like, she found it in the backseat of her car, where you don't know what it is, and you don't know who she is, and you don't, and it seems incomplete, and yet it is a sentence. And so I suggested a different way of defining a sentence. Anybody remember that? Wendy, I bet you do.
I don't.
You don't. All right, I'll give you a hint. It involved a blank line.
Yeah, I forget what the...
Yeah.
They refuse to believe the idea of that.
Yeah.
Way to go, Drew. I refuse to believe the idea of that blank line. Now, I thought you might have trouble remembering that, so I have another 3x5 card for everybody.
I've got it written down.
Well, now you have it on a little 3x5 card. There it is. They refuse to believe the idea of that blank. So if we take, my math teacher gave us a quiz. They refuse to believe the idea that my math teacher gave us a quiz. And it's foolproof. I mean, every student I've ever taught this to has said, thank you. That works much better than that complete thought thing. So there you are. And since we were going to use what you learned 2 weeks ago today to talk about punctuation, I thought it would be useful to have the definition. Now, that's a definition of a sentence. What's an independent clause? Also, it's just a review of what we went over a few weeks ago.
So, it's a group of words that make sense and
Could be a sentence.
sentence.
Yeah, it could be a sentence, but it's not. Or it might be or it might not. So if I say, Tom answered my question, comma, and Wendy knew the answer too. There's 2 independent clauses. Wendy knew the answer too. Tom answered my question, but 1 sentence. And so an independent clause, 1 more card for everybody. Now, I want you to take these cards and put them in your wallet. And when I bump into you out at White Marsh Mall, I'm going to do wallet check. I want to know what's in your wallet. Don't try to charge anything to these cards. Did everybody get one? So an independent clause, and I'm just giving these out so, because folks, we covered this 2 weeks ago, and you probably thought, oh, I passed exercise B or whatever it was on independent clauses. I don't have to know that anymore, but you have to know it for the rest of your life. And so I'm giving you these cards to help when you're proofreading paper number 1 in English 101, and you can't remember, trying to decide, do I need a comma there? So what we discovered from these 4 sentences is that if you have two independent clauses, you can put a period between them, but you cannot put a comma between them. Later on, anybody know any other options for what you could do between two independent clauses?
Add a fragment? Or not a fragment?
No, not a fragment. What's another piece of punctuation you could put in? Let me give you an example.
Semicolon.
Yeah, a semicolon. There you go. There you go. Very good. I should have just relaxed and given you a second to think. Yeah, a semicolon could go. Also, you could put in a comma and an and. Wendy loves commas, comma, and Tom loves apostrophes. So there are lots of options. We're not going to worry about the other options today. As the semester rolls along, we'll add those to it. But right now, what I want you to know is that if you have two independent clauses, putting a comma between them is not an option.